What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about a lot of new information that's out and about the new iPhone 7, iPhone 6C, and a lot of other details about Apple and the future of the company in general. So I love making these videos. There's always so much exciting stuff that's going around, rumors, leaks, a leaked prototype of the iPhone 7 apparently. So I have a lot of information to share with you guys. As part of my series, this is part 3, details and rumors and leaks about the iPhone 7. So first and foremost, the iPhone 7 prototype that's making rounds around the internet. I really didn't want to share it because it is so obviously fake, but basically a video was leaked by a supposed Foxconn employee. It's all looking legit. He's wearing the protection they use when handling electronic components to reduce static. He even acts rushed, looking over the phone as if someone is right behind his back. And what do you know? Before you know it, someone calls out to him, "Hey!" and the video cuts out. So I thought that was a really funny attempt. But let's focus on the iPhone itself. So it's completely chrome. It doesn't even look like a phone itself. It looks like a mold of some sort to produce maybe an iPhone component. But looking at the details of the phone, the camera is centered, which is very unlike Apple. There's no flash module. The Apple logo is bigger. The USB port or whatever it is apparently a 30 pin again. So we're going back to that. In general, this thing just looks so unlike Apple. Edge to edge bezel. We haven't seen that on any product, especially the MacBooks, which could use it the most. So there's a lot of details that irk me about it. Like, come on, people. You can't fall for this possibly, but it just seems just a little bit plausible that it could be possible, but really, guys, it's absolutely fake. So iPhone 7 prototypes you're seeing everywhere, not happening. No one knows the actual design details until Apple announces it usually. Now, there have been a lot of details and developments on the iPhone 7, and I absolutely love hearing about this. So this latest stuff is reliable. Again, it is coming from reliable sources, analysts, even patents that Apple actually pushes out themselves. I don't like to repost stuff that's so obnoxious, like physical keyboards or holographic keyboards. Come on, guys. So anyways, the very first one that is going around is basically Apple is developing their own high-resolution audio format. So what does this mean? For one, it's possible that Apple wants to upgrade Apple Music next year. This would allow for a much higher bit rate, 24-bit, and this could affect the new iPhone 7 as well. So as we know, the biggest thing about the iPhone 7, the rumor that everybody's hating, is that it's not going to include a headphone jack. And I did explain in my last video why this might be possibly a good idea. A lot of people are definitely not for it. It's definitely not to make the phone thinner, although it would help. So this new audio format would allow for 96 kilohertz and 24-bit audio, which currently in the lightning jack on the iPhone, using it, you can get over 190 kilohertz and still 24-bit audio. So basically, Apple wants to upgrade their streaming service, possibly even develop some new formats for the lightning port-based headphone jack on the iPhone 7. And believe it or not, this does reinforce the rumor that there will be no headphone jack on the iPhone 7. Whether you hate it or not, this is the future, and Apple is going to be doing away with that in the iPhone 7. So the next details, I'm actually a little bit shocked about this. I didn't think Apple would really push for it, but Apple is definitely going to be making the new iPhone 7 and beyond iPhones more weather resistant. So not necessarily waterproof, but they are adding new details and new little features in the ports that would allow for blocking dust, gases, water, and actually be able to expel them out of there. So there's actually two separate details here. Now, basically, Apple's going to be making their iPhones, future iPhones, more reliable, less likely to be damaged by the elements, which I think is really cool. And it's really starting to become possible. So basically a patent filed by Apple recently, it's a new material, an elastomer that would go inside of the ports, the headphone jack, possibly one or more ports, and it would protect against, the elements, whether it's sand or water or gases or debris of any sort. So the port would be sealed using this material. Whenever you would put a cable inside, whether it's the headphone jack or the lightning jack, it would make way for that and you could plug it in, and when you take it out, it self-seals itself. So this wouldn't necessarily mean full waterproofing, but it could help with water resistance. If you drop your phone in the sand, it wouldn't be a big deal anymore. And another patent just filed by Apple, basically liquid expulsion from an orifice. That's the actual detailing from Apple about the trademark. So what that would mean is it's water resistance for the speakers. So the speakers could emit a frequency that would remove the water from the orifice. That would basically just get the water out of there. I don't know the details on it because it's very vague, but another step towards weatherproofing or even water resistance towards the iPhone 7 or beyond iPhones. And another patent filed even earlier for water resistant technologies would allow for two purposes. One, water sealing an entire iPhone, and two, for a completely flush design. So basically, you could use a liquid metal alloy to seal in the glass inside of a ridge in the phone. This would allow for a completely ridge-free phone. There would be no gap in between the metal and display. And a couple other details I did want to mention. I did talk about them a little bit earlier in my other videos, but there are two other things I personally believe the iPhone 7 will upgrade. So for one is resolution, not screen size. Screen sizes will very likely stay the same for a while, but resolution. So the iPhone 6 Plus and 6S Plus have the highest resolution out of any iPhone, 401 pixels per inch. But even that is not enough. A lot of the competitors are already at QHD displays. It's becoming cheaper and more viable to put them into phones. So I definitely think that Apple will take advantage of that and put a high resolution display in their phones. The Retina display on the iPhone 6, 6S, basically the 326 pixels per inch format, is really old. It's been used all the way back to the iPhone 4, so it's definitely time to upgrade that resolution. And power-wise, there will be a difference between the 7 and 7 Plus. So the 7 is going to be coming with a A10 processor and 2 gigabytes of RAM, which is plenty for the 6S right now. So the 7 with a faster processor, it'll handle just fine. But sales for the larger phones, the phablets, the plus sizes, is actually going up. Last year versus this year, there's a 7% increase in sales of the Plus models. So it's definitely an area where Apple needs to improve, and they're going to want to differentiate the two models, make people want to buy the 6S Plus, which is more expensive, or the 7 Plus. They're going to definitely want to differentiate those with extra RAM. So they're going to add one more extra gigabyte of RAM, making the 7 Plus have 3 gigabytes of RAM. So that's it for the 7 and 7 Plus. But the iPhone 6S, that's that one phone that really everybody's excited about, because we're going to be seeing it very, very soon. It's been confirmed over and over. Ming-Chi Kuo, the actual analyst that did a report on it, is very, very confident Apple's going to be releasing it very soon, early 2016. So a latest rumor actually pinpoints the actual release and announcement. So not to the day, but a little bit more accurately than just a vague early 2016 release. So we're going to be seeing the release of the iPhone 6C in April. So it's going to be announced in March, and it'll be half a month to a month gap in between the actual release. So it's going to be announced at the March event. This is an event that Apple's had before, nothing new. And at this event, they actually might announce the Apple Watch 2 and the iPad Air 3. The iPad Air 3, supposedly it's not going to be receiving 3D Touch from the iPhone 6S, so it's just going to be an upgraded version of the iPad Air 2. So why is Apple releasing another cheap phone? Because cheap phones from Android are actually gaining a huge market share on Apple. A lot of people don't want to invest a ton of money into an expensive phone when a cheaper variant does everything they need, and it's a perfect place for Apple to grow, and they're going to release the 6C in order to compete with the Android versions. So I'm really excited for that, what a cheap iPhone could mean in this day and time. About the details of that phone, aluminum shell, different colors. It's going to be a fun little phone. It'll have Touch ID, but no 3D Touch. Basically a 4-inch display, smaller iPhone, not too cheap of internals, but definitely slower than the 6S and 7. Now, my last subject I wanted to talk about before I wrap this up is the future of the iPhone, of Apple in general. So there's a big problem right now. A lot of investors, analysts are seeing it. Daniel Ives, so he works on Wall Street, and basically what he's saying is the iPhone 7 could be one last big hurrah for Apple. Now, what that means is basically there's a point that Apple has reached where the iPhone every single year has less and less basically diminishing returns. So from the iPhone to the iPhone 3G, the original, there was a huge increase in speed, in data speed. And every single year, every iPhone has less and less that surprises people. I hear every single year people complaining, oh, the new iPhone, there's just not enough. It's not convincing enough to upgrade. Well, you got to realize the company technology has reached a point where the phone is so hard to please people because there's not much. Technology doesn't grow so fast that it doubles in speed, in innovation every single year. So Apple's reached a point with the iPhone where it's very hard to please people, but there's a problem because the iPhone made up 66% of Apple's revenue in the last quarter. So Apple heavily relies on the iPhone, but with the slowing of technology improvements and all of that, it's just going to be very hard for Apple to continue making so much revenue just from the iPhone. Don't get me wrong, they're selling these things like hotcakes. Really, every single time the new iPhone comes out, they're breaking records and all that, but Apple needs to start investing in other companies, other technologies. And what that investor means, Daniel Ive, is basically the iPhone 7 is going to be the last huge revolution for the iPhone, design-wise, feature-wise, because we've just reached a point where it's very hard to make innovations and improvements in technology every single year. So Apple's going to cool it on the upgrades for the iPhone every year, and that's what he's saying. I sure hope he's wrong. I sure hope Apple has a lot of things planned up their sleeve for every generation of the iPhone, but at the same time, it's sad that I actually agree with him. I mean, people are really hard to please, and it's very hard to innovate, that's for sure, especially when technology doesn't allow you to. It doesn't grow fast enough. So what he's saying in a nutshell is basically the iPhone 7 is going to be one last huge hurrah for Apple. After that, the upgrades will become, more mild. And Apple currently has $200 billion that's just sitting in an account. Now, what is Apple going to do with this? A lot of people, investors, analysts are saying Apple's going to be buying some companies very soon. They're going to want to expand their reach beyond the iPhone. They rely too heavily on it for all their revenue. iPad sales, Mac sales, they make up such a small portion of Apple's total revenue. So Apple really needs to start expanding or innovating. And the way they're going to do that is they're going to buy either Tesla or GoPro. Those are the two companies apparently Apple is eyeing. I mean, Apple's been hiring Tesla's old employees for a while now. It's certainly no secret that Apple's building a car, but are they going to do it alone, or are they going to buy Tesla and collaborate with them? So really interesting for me to see where Apple's going. Let's see what companies they buy in 2016 and beyond. But thanks so much for watching, guys. Just wanted to update you guys. There's so much out there I wanted to bring into one video, and hopefully I gave you guys a good idea of what's going on with the iPhone 7, 6C, and Apple in general. So have a great day, guys. Stay tuned for any more updates on the iPhone 7. Peace.